Hello there, Brick Fanatics! We are back with another update video on the LEGO Group's retiring sets list. Stick around in particular if you are a fan of the LEGO Ideas theme, because there have been some big changes behind the scenes with this theme and when a bunch of these sets are scheduled for retirement, which are going to make a big impact on what sets are going to be available to you this time next year. In case you've forgotten, or indeed you haven't seen any of our previous videos on the subject, the LEGO Group has an internal list of every single LEGO set's lifespan and when it is scheduled for retirement. That is the point at which the LEGO Group will stop manufacturing more copies of any particular set. With the occasional exception, the LEGO Group tends to have December 31st and July 31st as cut-off points after which definitely no more of a particular set will be manufactured. That doesn't mean that if a LEGO set is retiring by that date, it will definitely be available on store shelves until right up to that last moment. It simply means that by that cut-off date, the LEGO Group will definitely not be sending out any more units to stores. As we sometimes see with LEGO sets such as, for example, the Ultimate Collector Series 8080 last year, some LEGO sets will disappear from store shelves long before that final cut-off point. On the other side of the spectrum, some LEGO sets will stick around on store shelves after their retirement date, simply because that particular store has some units left to sell. Now, the LEGO Group updates this list periodically, so back in February we did a video on all of the LEGO sets that were at that moment in time scheduled for retirement by the end of this year, and then in March we did an update video with some other LEGO sets that had been moved forward to be retiring by the end of this year, where previously they had been slated for retirement after this year. This time around there are just two changes to the 2025 retiring list that we need to report. One LEGO set that is retiring later than initially scheduled and no longer retiring by the end of 2025, and one LEGO set that will be retiring in 2025 that had not previously been slated to retire until next year. 71808 Kai's Elemental Fire Mech was previously scheduled for retirement by the end of December 31st, 2025, is now scheduled for retirement by the end of December 31st, 2026. That's 1 year delay. 75682 Elphaba and Glinda Figures was previously scheduled for retirement December 31st, 2026, will now be retiring before December 31st, 2025. That's this year. That is it for the 2025 list. Kai's Elemental Fire Mech is retiring a year later and won't be retiring this year. The Glinda and Elphaba figures will be retiring this year by December 31st, where previously they had not been on that list. That's really the only difference for 2025. What's interesting is 2026, in particular, July of 2026. The big thing that we want to talk about in this video is how the LEGO Ideas catalogue is shifting, because half of all the currently available LEGO Ideas sets will be retiring within the next 15 to 16 months. According to the retiring sets list, the following LEGO Ideas sets will retire by the end of December 31st, 2025. 21335 Motorized Lighthouse, 21341 Disney Hocus Pocus The Sanderson Sisters Cottage, 21342 The Insect Collection, 21343 Viking Village, 21344 The Orient Express Train, 21346 Family Tree, 21347 Red London Telephone Box. That's 7 LEGO sets. There are currently 20 LEGO Ideas sets on the market, so this represents almost, not quite, but almost a third of all LEGO Ideas sets retiring this year. But that's not all. The following LEGO sets are now newly scheduled for retirement by the end of July 2026. 21348 Dungeons & Dragons Red Dragon's Tale, 21350 Jaws, 21352 Magic of Disney. So the retirement date for these sets are moving forward by 6 months. They'd previously been scheduled for retirement by the end of December 31st, 2026. We don't tend to cover the 2026 retiring sets because that's just so far in the future. But this is significant because it's moving these sets forward so that they are retiring in just a little over a year's time. It's not all doom and gloom though, because the following LEGO set has been delayed from retiring in July of next year to December 31st, 2026. 21323 Grand Piano. So that one is now retiring at the end of next year rather than midway through next year. So that one's got a little bit more life to it. You can see how the LEGO Group shuffles this list around and tends to either lengthen or shorten the lifespan of LEGO sets, generally depending on how well they're selling. Anyway, with these additional 3 LEGO sets that are retiring in July, a net 2 if you factor in that the Grand Piano has now been delayed, that means that we have 10 LEGO sets from the LEGO Ideas theme that are retiring either in December of this year or July of next year. That is half the theme. It is not a case that these are all the oldest of the LEGO Ideas sets, because, for example, Grand Piano, that is a very old one at this point. That one debuted all the way back in 2020. That one's clearly got a little bit more life in it still. But there are some here on this list just retiring this year alone that only went on sale at the beginning of last year, and so have a lifespan of just around 2 years or a little bit less. I'm speaking specifically of Family Tree and Red London Telephone Box, both of which debuted in February of last year. The 3 LEGO sets that have just seen their retirement dates brought forward to July of next year all debuted last year. So again, we're not seeing these staying on store shelves indefinitely. They're getting 2 years or a little bit under or a little bit over, depending on the store shelves before they are replaced by something else. Now, the LEGO Ideas theme has been growing and growing a lot in recent years. It is one that is very popular among a lot of LEGO fans. You get all of the joy of a LEGO Icons build, but also you get a bunch of weird stuff made in LEGO that the LEGO group itself might not necessarily have considered if a LEGO Ideas fan had not submitted a proposal and said, hey, why don't you make a Nightmare Before Christmas set? Why don't you make a Hocus Pocus LEGO set? Why don't you make a Twilight LEGO set? Apparently the trick is make something slightly spooky but also kind of kid-friendly at the same time. I mean, that's just the current trend within LEGO Ideas. You go back a few years, it was all preschool stuff. You had Winnie the Pooh and Sesame Street. 2 things that it would be great to have slightly more accessible sets for younger kids, but at the same time, a lot of the nostalgia factor for adults in being able to recreate Winnie the Pooh's house or Sesame Street in LEGO form is just so appealing that a lot of people pick these sets up, even if we have long since grown out of these particular brands. Can you grow out of Sesame Street? Can you grow out of Winnie the Pooh? Actually, maybe you can't. Maybe these things are just enduring and timeless. Although not that timeless because the LEGO sets did retire, just like these ones are scheduled to now. The decision to move the retirement date for the Dungeons & Dragons set forward is a little bit disconcerting. One can only hope that it's going to be replaced with something else, because there still feels like there's a big old gap in the market here that could be flooded with additional LEGO Dungeons & Dragons sets. If nothing else, I'm sure that there are lots of LEGO fans that would love, love, love another Dungeons & Dragons collectible minifigure series. And of course, Dungeons & Dragons is one of many IP partners that the LEGO Group is currently working with that would be absolutely perfect for a new castle theme. This year we're getting One Piece in lieu of a pirates theme. We have of course got Star Wars in lieu of a space theme. Where is our fantasy theme? Where is our castle theme? Dungeons & Dragons could be that. One can only hope that this move to retire this set early is not intended to disappoint Dungeons & Dragons fans, but rather to make room for more Dungeons & Dragons LEGO in the closer future. Also move forward is Jaws. I guess that's another one that's slightly scary but also kind of cute, especially with that adorable Jaws shark in this LEGO set. It's kind of interesting to look at the LEGO Ideas sets that will not be retiring within the next 16 months and see what kinds of things just clearly have some staying power. If you are considering making a LEGO Ideas project yourself, bear in mind that these are the LEGO sets that are probably selling the best. You got things like, yes, that grand piano, the Home Alone house, and Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, which are all sets from before 2023 and yet are not going to be retiring anytime soon. The fun thing about the LEGO Ideas theme is that we generally know what's coming in the future for the theme anyway, because the LEGO Group announces it so far in advance. Even so, with so many projects that do not get approved with every review period, I know that there are a lot of LEGO Ideas fans that would absolutely love for the LEGO Group to expand this theme further and keep making even more sets, add additional sets to the lineup. Certainly the introduction of the parking lot feature to the LEGO Ideas review process goes a long way to giving fans additional hope. Now, instead of a LEGO Ideas project simply being cast away if it doesn't quite work out within that first little review period, it can just kind of sit there. Us just gathering a little bit of dust, but still absolutely ready to be put into production should the LEGO Group be able to sort out all of the issues that they have with the set. That's an indication that maybe, just maybe, the LEGO Group sees a benefit in putting a little bit more oomph into the LEGO Ideas theme. It also means the potential for all the more different licensed IP sets in the future, as the LEGO Group has now slightly longer to work out the specifics for a licensed IP set for the LEGO Ideas theme. So on the one hand, it is well worth bearing in mind all of these LEGO sets, especially if they are on your to-buy list. You have a limited amount of time to get your hands on some of these. Not hugely limited necessarily, because they're all going to stick around for a little while longer, but within the next year to 16 months, you might want to look at picking some of these up. On the other hand, if they are retiring all of these LEGO sets, that means they must be clearing way for new products. And that means that with the next few LEGO Ideas reviews, we might see some really cool stuff getting approved. But what do you think? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and do all of the rest of the YouTube things while you're at it. Hit the thumbs up button and hit subscribe and the notification bell. Make sure that if you're going to be purchasing any LEGO Ideas sets or any other LEGO sets in the near future, that you use the QR code, which is currently on screen, or the affiliate link, which is down in the description. They take you straight to the LEGO website. We get a percentage of the sale when you purchase through those links. Doesn't cost you a penny extra. Helps to keep the lights on at Brick Fanatics. Do make sure that you go to brickfanatics.com for coverage of all things LEGO, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.